Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Soul Podcast. I am here with DJ Jim Reiss, and I'm just going to read his bio. It says, at the end of the 70s, age 7, Jim was one of the geeky kids who would record his favourite songs from the top 40 and then use dubbing on his ghetto blaster to make mixes. He was just trying to get the music that he wanted in the order that he wanted, with none of the boring bits. This is still basically how he DJs now. After messing with all kinds of homemade and second-hand audio equipment, by the end of the 80s he was able to get his hands on a pair of actual turntables. Ever since then, he's made most of his living through DJing, apart from working with myself on the Bluefoot project. He got a bit bored of gigs and he spent the last 20 years running a non-profit DJ school with a focus on helping children with special educational needs. He likes the techniques of hip-hop DJing, like scratching and juggling, but he also loves a smooth, well-transitioned bit of house or techno. Sometimes he still just drops a huge tune without mixing it at all. He doesn't consider himself a real DJ and he can't be bothered battling. Welcome, Jim.
Hi,
So, did you find it hard to choose your songs? How long did it take?
I mean, the easy answer to that is 49 years. It's an impossible task. It really is, as you'll see as we go through. But yeah, hours. Some of them were just like, that one's going in there. And then it was like, oh, but is it that or is it that? Yeah, it's a nightmare. So
Absolutely.
Thanks for that.
You mentioned some quite specific mixes as well, which I quite like, but we will look at that later. So that brings us to song 1 then. You've gone for Ghost Town, the special. So why did you choose that song?
So this song is it represents a whole genre of music, which was the ska revival at the end of the 70s, early 80s, and the two-tone movement. And it is one of my favourite songs, but the reason I've chose it is because when I was a kid, aged 6 or 7, my parents took us to a lot of the Rock Against Racism events, and we were watching bands like The Beat and The Selector and Bad Manners, and I don't think we ever actually saw the specials, although my brother might disagree with that. But we knew it was an alternative scene, and we knew it was all about welcoming everyone and everything being cool. But what happened at every single one of them was the fascist element, who were also skin. I mean, I was a skinhead, but I was anti-fascist. I was two-tone, and the skinheads who were fascists would always come and raid those events, and there'd always be violence. And at the same time, growing up at the late 70s in Bradford, as we were before we moved to Leeds, and it was rough. You know, I'd get beatings for supporting the wrong football team, even though I didn't actually support any. If someone says, who do you support? I don't know. Beating. Oh, I'll name one. Beating. It's just how it was. And then for a while I wore an anti-fascist badge as well. Beatings. So that lyric in Ghost Town, there's too much fighting on the dance floor, was the thing that just totally encapsulated that era.
Yeah, that time.
Because I'm going out to gigs on my dad's shoulders, listening to amazing music, being introduced to dub reggae at the same time, and feeling all that fantastic bass, vibe, people coming together, and yet it was always tainted with violence.
Got you. How did your parents explain the fascist element away to you at such a young age?
So they weren't prejudiced against fascists. It was kind of this understanding that some people had issues, and that they weren't issues that meant they were the enemy. They were issues that meant maybe they are worthy of explanation too, because you'd think, well, how come all these kids, these guys, it was always blokes as well back then. I know there are fascist women. I'm not trying to be sexist, but back then it was always gangs of blokes, young angry men, and they'd be coming because they loved the music. And then they'd kick off because there were coloured people in the audience, and they'd be causing problems. And there'd always just be this understanding that if you love the music, how can you want to cause violence?
Exactly. So, never understood that. Do you think that there are parallels then between the fascism of yesteryear, the 80s, and the fascism that seems to be kind of growing in popularity now?
Yeah. I mean, I think fascism Well, fascism's a big term, isn't it? But intolerance, if you want to call it that, I think is just always going to be common wherever people feel downtrodden.
That's right.
Which I think is generally downtrodden because of the people who've got more.
Yeah, I think it's very linked to poverty, isn't it?
Very linked to poverty, linked to lack of opportunity. And they want someone to blame. And often it's just the blame ends up being placed on people who are different.
Yes.
Rather than the causes of the blame. The invaders.
It's all their fault.
Exactly.
The fact that you've got no money.
Yeah.
Forget about the fact that the government isn't necessarily acting in your best interest. Forget about that.
Corporations.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's that classic meme image that you see online all the time, and there's the dude in a suit and a dude in a hard hat and a coloured refugee-looking dude. And the dude in the suit's got a plate full of cookies.
Yeah.
And the dude with the hard hat's got one.
Yeah.
And the dude with refugee's got none.
Yeah.
And the dude in the suit's just saying, he wants to take your cookie.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's exactly how they do it.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
it's the same thing that's always been there, since, who knows, King Arthur,
since the
before
dawn of
that,
time.
Egyptians, whoever it was, they're always pitting, divide and rule.
Othering.
If they can keep us divided, they can get away with their nastiness a bit better.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that's changed at all.
No.
It's a jolly start.
It certainly is, yeah. Let's go on to song 2 quickly before we get too depressed.
Yeah, right.
Pink Floyd, Fearless, from the album Medal. So why did you choose this song?
So again, growing up, my biggest musical influences was my parents as a little kid. And they had all the Pink Floyd albums. They had all sorts of other stuff as well, including lots of reggae. But we were always listening to those albums. Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here. Wish You Were Here was the song we played for my mum at a funeral. But Medal, this song Fearless, it was the lyrics that got me. I mean, I love the song, beautiful acoustic guitar, fantastic feel to it, really laid back. But then there's this lyric in it, fearlessly the idiot faced the crowd, and I'll climb the hill in my own way. And it just really struck me. I was like, I am the idiot, and I know I'm the idiot because everyone tells me. I'm getting beatings all the time. But I'm going to be fearless with it. I'm not going to allow that to stamp me down.
No.
I'm going to climb it. I'm going to do it in my own way. And,
lyrics mean quite a lot to you, don't they?
Hugely, yeah. I mean, as a DJ, I generally prefer instrumentals. I'm not going to lie, but that's because I like to make a mess of them with wiki scratching.
Yeah.
But when I'm listening to songs, I love a good lyric. I love a meaningful lyric. I love a lyric that speaks to me. And when the lyrics and the songs, I mean, it's the art of good songwriting, isn't it? When the lyric and the music go together to give you an emotion, whether it's making you feel better or helping you indulge in your downside or whatever it is, whatever you're going to get from it, it's the power that a good song has is just second to no art form.
Absolutely.
There was one other thing about Fearless though, which is worth mentioning. At the end, it segues from the song into a recording of the crowd at Anfield. Now I've already said I'm not a footy fan, but the audio of that blend, if you like, to this audience singing, this crowd singing You'll Never Walk Alone, and the way that the crowd themselves are all out of time. So it sounds like this huge echo going on in the stadium, which is just what happens with crowds.
It certainly is.
But for me, I was listening to it going, wow, what can you do with sound? What can you actually make from other bits of sound? And it really blew my mind that they'd done that on that song.
Absolutely. You never decided to study music though then? Why?
Well, I mean, I was a kid in the 80s and music lessons were music teacher, tweed patches and the lot, puts on a great track, whether it's, I mean, I'm not averse to a good bit of orchestral music, so Saint-Saëns' Carnival of the Animals, Beethoven's Ninth, and I'm feeling power and I'm feeling joy and I'm feeling all that, and then halfway through he just stops it and starts talking.
How dare you!
I'll be like, what are you doing? This is the first lesson I've enjoyed all week. So I never took to music lessons for that reason, but also I was one of those kids, like I said in my bio, I was a nerd, and I was doing all right in science and maths, and the conveyor belt of careers advice was saying, if you're good at them, do them. If you're good at them, do them. Leave everything else behind.
Absolutely.
So no, music, I was just doing what I was told for, for the path of least resistance, if you like.
That's my bugbear, if I'm honest, about about music education, I have to say, is the fact that often, far too often, I found as a music teacher anyway, that the brighter children, or the children that were more academic, were often encouraged not to take music GCSE in favour of inflating the school stats by just doing maths, English and science and those sort of baccalaureate type subjects. And I think it's scandalous.
We come up against this all the time as DJ school, because we work in schools. One of our aims is to raise the profile of DJing to the same levels as piano, violin, vocals. And we're doing well with that. You know, you can now do a GCSE with DJing as your instrument, but we're still going out to schools where we can get funding from the local music hub, who are really supportive, and say to schools, we can give you free lessons, we can give your kids an introduction to music through this engaging art form. And some schools, to their credit, are massively understanding and welcome us with open arms. They're like, yes, we know these kids will respect their school, enjoy this lesson, expand their understanding, learn extra skills. They love it. But other schools are like, we dare not take our kids off maths, English and science, the EBAC subjects, to do anything else.
And what they don't seem to, or they seem to forget, is the fact that anybody who studies music becomes academically brighter anyway, because it shifts the way you think about everything. Not just music, it's the way you think about everything.
Absolutely, and just the life skills you can develop through being a musician, you know, self-discipline, self-motivation, self-confidence, reflective practice.
Yeah.
It's huge, and schools are really missing out, and I don't think it's the school's fault. I think it is, again, the powers that be, the league tables, the EBAC, the focus that they're given, it just doesn't give room. And the really sad thing is, it's the underachieving schools who give room, who have less space for it.
Right.
And normally the reason they're underachieving, according to the league tables, is because they're in areas of social disadvantage.
Yeah.
So it's a brutal system at the moment.
It really is. It really is. Brings us to song 3 then.
All right.
Song 3, you've got the House Martins, Sitting on a Fence.
Yeah.
So why did you choose that one?
So that's a cracking tune for me. It's jangly guitar, indie pop. And after, you know, my parents' record collection, I started getting into what my brother was listening to. And it's the Smiths, and it's New Order, and it's the Communards, Eurasia, and then the House Martins. And that whole House Martins album, Hull 4 London Nil, just used to, as soon as I put it on, I was bouncing on my bed, and I was pogoing, I was going eight, I was loving it.
Not
so
shoegazing?
Not shoegazing.
Oh,
no,
you weren't, right,
no, it's
okay.
not shoegazing music, not at all. No, it's jangly, upbeat, go crazy.
It's interesting with your song choices so far, though, that even when, like, you were younger, your taste was, like, so eclectic. It was so different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why that is. Radio wasn't really a part of our life, but again, my parents being quite alternative, we had various people in and out of the house at various times, so there was a lot of different music, very little of it mainstream, and I think it just helped me not end up in a pigeonhole. Do you see what I mean? Nice to say I don't love a pop song, but it was just a part of the bigger world of music.
Absolutely.
But going back to the Sitting on a Fence song, the whole song's about people not being able to make their mind up, seeing both sides of an argument, and that's exactly where I was at as an early teen. I was like, I don't want to argue, I want to understand your point of view, and I thought, this is me, I see both sides of both sides, I'm sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
But there's a line in it, and again, it's the lyrics, and they say, the real problem with this man is he says he can't when he can.
Got you.
And that just made me go, all right,
Fair
enough, that's where I'm going wrong.
Yeah.
I can see both sides, but I'm going to have to make a decision at some point.
Right.
I'm going to have to choose my battles, and it just helped me grow up a little bit and stop being, I mean, I'm still contrary. Anyone who knows me will know you can't get Jim to make a decision. But if I'm actually pushed to it, and it's like mayonnaise or ketchup, I'm going to have to choose something.
You are.
You know.
At some point.
I might go Mary Rose. That's a bad example.
I was going to say, just mix the two.
Yeah. Bad example. But I'm not going to get any deeper than that.
Yeah. No, I love that. Which brings us very, very nicely to song 4. You have gone for the Pixies, Monkey Gone to Heaven. So why did you choose that song?
Well, again, I'm deep in my indie phase, and I mean, interspersed with all kinds of other music as usual. But I'm about 16, and one of the lads in our group of mates, we knew he was going to pass his driving test, and the Pixies, who were an American band, were coming to GMX in Manchester. So we bought tickets on the strength that he was going to pass.
You preempted
so
it.
So he drove us, and it's the first gig without my parents.
What would you have done if you'd have failed?
We hadn't even considered it. Do you know what I mean?
Typical,
it wasn't even an option.
Teenager.
Yeah, like sitting on the fence with everything else, but when it came to that, decisions made with doing this. There was no question of failure.
Love it.
So we went, we loved it. It was deep, it was dark, it was heavy, but it was jangly, and it was pogoing, and it was just stunning. I mean, there's always that freedom, isn't there? We drove here ourselves. My parents aren't here. I mean, my parents are lovely. I never had to rebel against them, but still, just being just the four of us lads at the time, I was like, I should be on that stage. I didn't want to be one up front people.
But
I'm especially watching like the drummer at the back and going, he gets away with doing this and no one knows his face. How's he doing that? How's he doing that?
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and I just, absolutely, everything about the experience was mind-blowing.
Do you think that you were a rebel on some level at that time? Because the music you were listening to is quite rebellious.
Well, I mean, not for the people that mattered.
Yeah.
Which was my family.
Yeah.
There was nothing we were doing that I was doing that would have been considered rebellious to them, I don't think. But to certain parts of society and to teachers, I know I wasn't especially doing it the way they would have wanted. Do you see what I mean? Even if I was doing the career path because they told me to, I was just like, path the least resistance. But I wasn't an out-and-out rebel without a cause.
Got you.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think some of the stuff I did was, alternative is a better word.
Alternative, I like that word. Which then brings us to song 5. Now, you've gone for a Talking Heads track. Love Same As It Ever Was. Love it. I think that's one of my favourite tracks. But you've gone for Psycho Killer. And you've gone for the live one.
From the Stop Making Sense tour.
That's the one. So why that specifically?
So, again, an American band, I never saw them live, but we had the video of that show. And I was just getting into that stage of, all right, so I was doing my GCSEs, but you might not know this actually, I was playing a bit of guitar by then as well. Yeah. So, I knew my 4/3 chord.
3 chords.
And my 12-bar blues.
Yeah, gotcha.
I have to remember the words, I can play it. I can't remember what it's called now. But I was watching the video of Talking Heads, and I was like, that's the Tom Tom Club, and that's David Byrne, and that's Talking Heads, and that's like 2 whole bands doing one thing. How have they done that? And I was just blown away by the collaboration. The song, I love the song anyway, but then it was the way they did it live, specifically on that tour, that was so different and sounded. The sonic quality was so different to the recording I knew. And I was just, again, absolutely hooked into thinking, that's something I need to know more about. I kind of, part of me wanted to be up there, but I didn't think I want to be famous. I just wanted to know more about it. I wanted to get more knowledge.
And it's funny, isn't it, that juxtaposition or the difference, that you can get. This is what a lot of musicians seem to miss nowadays. They want to do a song exactly like how it appeared on their album or on their single. And actually, it's so much more interesting to go to a gig and think, I know I can tell you're doing that particular song, but I love how you're doing it this time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, Frank Sinatra, all of them doing jazz standards in their own way. Nina Simone will obviously come up later because it couldn't do this without her.
Absolutely.
And just putting your own spin on it, and even your own song, your own recording, never mind the standards, just putting your own spin on it. It's funny, I've just thought then about how, no disrespect, but the modern DJs who only release stuff on SoundCloud that's perfect.
Right, yeah.
And you're like, but I like a DJ when I go out who will keep me on the edge of my seat.
That's
and I don't want to hear them go wrong,
but
I do want to hear them have to make up if something's not gone right.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is live performance.
Absolutely.
It's that individual performance that only we in the room were able to
witness at the time.
Witness
Yeah.
That for me is what music is all about. It's live. I love recordings.
Yeah.
But I love live.
I remember once Diane Reeves came to Leeds to play, and I know your Caroline likes Diane Reeves as well, and she came to Leeds to play. Yeah,
beautiful song.
she came to Leeds, and for some reason, and I can't remember why, but her band were elsewhere. Okay. And the only people that turned up was Diane Reeves and her piano player. I think the band had got stranded somewhere. But she came to Leeds. I think it was at the Wardrobe. I think it was a Wardrobe gig. And everybody was like, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And she was like, I'm going to go on.
Do my songs.
Just me and my piano. You know. And she nailed the whole gig. And people were talking about how amazing this gig was. And how different it was from her album, but it was like, no, that's what proper musicians do.
Yeah, it shows that humanity and it makes that connection. Yeah,
absolutely.
So yeah, that whole Talking Heads. I mean, it's not to downplay how much I love their music.
Yeah.
But that show, even though it was just on video, was just like, wow,
unbelievable.
Yeah,
mind blowing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Song 6, then you have gone for Happy Mondays.
Oh, yeah.
Wrote for Luck. And again, you've been very specific. You've gone for it's got to be Think About the Future mix. So why that then?
So, indie kid. I mean, not like I said, not compartmentalised, but I love my indie. I love my guitars. I love my soul, Motown, reggae, dub, all of that. But the Wrote for Luck, Think for the Future mix was the one with this booming 4 on the floor kick drum, electronic kick drum.
Yeah.
And it was my first kind of introduction, if you like, end of the 80s to dance music, as it was. Not music you can dance to, but dance music.
Yeah,
it was the
as
dance
a genre.
mix, the 12-inch that some clubs were playing.
Yeah.
Again, alternative clubs. Because, like, I was into the Mondays, I was into the Roses, I was into the Charlatans, and then this just seemed to go leap.
Yeah.
Here we are. This is something completely different.
Very.
And it was dancing to it, like, back then, first rave I ever went to, with this, we is me and the same group of mates who went to the Pixies, funnily enough.
Got you.
But we went to this rave, and I mean, I don't mean like we'd done parties and we'd done DIY raves,
got you,
and things out and about, you know. But this was the first rave organised in a place, and they were playing Wrote for Luck, but they were playing Voodoo Ray, they were playing Rage Against the Machine, they were playing the Beastie Boys, and it was that kind
That's what raves were like back
mix
then.
of music that was a rave, that was my taste already.
Absolutely.
And I was like, this is fantastic, but the Wrote for Luck mix was the one that got me into a trance, and just got my head down and made me just plod to it all the way through.
So where was this at? Where was
It was the Poly, which is now Leeds Polytechnic by the dry dock, and now it's the Leeds Beckett Uni.
Wow.
In that big room.
Yeah.
And, it was. That's one of the other things about that gig, because it was a rave, but it was a gig. But as soon as we walked in, we were like, there's no band, there's no focal point.
No.
The DJ was not up there, like nowadays, fireworks and dancers.
DJ's the god.
Didn't even see where the DJ was. There was no DJ, there was just music, and there were just people in little clumps or in big groups and just floating about dancing. It was just a beautiful thing.
The one thing I can remember about going to raves, sorry mum and dad, but I did.
Did they not know till now?
Was usually in the wee small hours of the morning when the rave was about an hour away from finishing. Out would come these wonderful trays laden with fruit.
Yes.
And bottles of water, and it'd be like, wow, like fruit. For whatever reason, you've been dancing like a mad fool, and here they are, like,
you
have
some
vitamins,
kids. You need your vitamins.
It was great.
Yeah, man.
They should continue with that. Like, make a note of that. We need more fruit in nightclubs. This brings me then to song 7, and you've gone for Some Justice, Urban Shakedown, and my favourite drum and bass DJ, Mickey Finn. Love Mickey Finn. My favourite track of his is Badass. I think people should absolutely listen to that. It's a great track.
True.
But why have you gone with Some Justice?
Well, Some Justice was a bit before Badass. Like, Badass is definitely, you'd call it drum and bass.
Yeah.
It's jump up drum and bass.
Yeah.
But Some Justice was a few years before that, and it was kind of, I think people call it proto-jungle now.
Yeah.
I don't know. To us it was dance music. It was played at the rave. It was actually at the Orbit in Morley.
Oh, wow.
When the Orbit was in Morley. And there they used to bring out, not fruit, popsicles.
Popsicles. Have your vitamins,
popsicles. Kids. Cool down a bit. But Some Justice was, it just blew my mind. I mean, I've got to give nods here. This one could have been LFO, it could have been Kitachi, it could have been Joey Beltran, could have been Ragga Twins. There's so many other tracks.
Yeah.
But the thing that Some Justice did to me was it's got that bass line, which is sub anyway, and it harks back to sort of dub reggae and big 18-inch cones, but and it drops. And then basically the bass line just whips you around the head.
Wow. Yeah.
And I've never heard anything like it. Like today, since dubstep and EDM, that's overused. Everything's wobbly.
Yeah. Everything's wobble based.
And it's cheap and it's but that tune just got it in this. It was only on vinyl, of course, so there was nothing digital about it, and it just hit me right in the chest. I felt like I was on a roller coaster, you know, and I was like, "You can do that to bass."
This is music too. Wow.
And I think I actually stopped dancing for a second just to compose myself, and then we're like, right, back on it, running, man, off we go.
Love it.
But it was
That's
just
amazing.
Such a huge tune.
And it's funny you should say that, because that physical effect that the bass has on you.
Yeah.
Another one of my guests, my first guest, Uwe, he said exactly the same thing, that what got him into reggae, the thing that really drew him in, was going to these dancers and hearing that bass and just the physical nature, feeling the bass. It's not just about audio anymore. Now it's visceral. Now it's
done right. It's like a massage for your internal organs.
Absolutely.
And that's how it should be. Like I have asthma, and I used to go to sub-dub. Mark Iration for all the great times we had in your rooms. And I'd go and I'd stand here as his speakers done in these pyramids, and I'd get right hand side or left hand side, so I wasn't in front of the mid and I wasn't in front of the treble, I was just in front of the bass cones, and by the end of it I'd have the cleanest lungs. Because I swear the whole thing would be shaken out. All my asthma, all my airways were just opened up by the physical. I mean, I presume there's some science behind the sound wave itself going through your body. Yeah. But that visceral feeling of. Especially when it cuts.
Yes.
And then comes back.
Get back.
And that's what Mickey Finn did.
Yeah.
It just rocked my world.
I have a wonderful story to tell about our Jim. And this was, I'm sure the Bluefoot Project had played Sub-Dub, and it was towards the end of the night, so we were all packed up and we were ready to go, and we all looked around and we were like, "Where's Jim? Where's Jim?" And we were trying to find him. Anyway, I'm sure it was Uwe. I'm pretty sure Uwe went to have a look around Sub-Dub to see if he could find Jim.
Uncle Uwe looking after me.
Certainly did. And he was found asleep, inside a bass bin. That was where it was. And those bass bins were not quiet,
It wasn't an accident either. I was tired beyond belief. I don't want to get into details, but basically I realised that the bass bins were proper scoops. So the speaker points backwards into a huge structure that lets the airwave come out. And I suddenly realised I could get in that. So I just went in, and as soon as I got in, it's like, again, I think the science says that the wave is actually outside.
Yeah.
So inside, it was silent.
Right.
There was no noise of the crowd because the wave is coming past me and pushing all the sound out. So it was just totally silent except for the vibration. So it wasn't like it was deafening. I was just feeling the...
It was like being inside his mother's womb. That's what it was.
Best nap I've had on tour with you guys ever. It was amazing.
Brilliant. Anyway, I'd just like to say we did find him and we did manage to get him home.
Get on the van!
Hurry up! Song 8 then. You talked about her previously, Nina Simone. I mean, she means the absolute world to me as well. And you've gone for I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. I know it's a really special song to you, but why did you choose it?
So, and I mean, this one goes right back again to just music in general. Before Nina Simone, I used to run downstairs to watch Barry Norman's film, whatever it was, 91, 92, 93, he did that series. And it always started with what my dad called the Chonk Chonk song. Jong, jong, dong, good, dong, dong, dong. Oh my God. And I never realised that I never watched the show. I only wanted to hear the theme tune. It took me a while to recognise it's the music I like. So find it out. It was, I've got him written down, Billy Taylor and his trio doing a version of I Wish I Knew.
Got you.
Loved it, meant the world to me. And then I heard Nina Simone's version with words. And this is about when I'm starting to, like, I've read a lot of the religious texts, the Bible and the Quran, and some of the Buddhist works, the Great Stupa and things like that. And that whole idea of I wish I knew how it would feel to be free, just really tied in with what I was understanding about the trials of life, the chances of reincarnation, whether you believe in it or not, and I don't know if I do, but this idea that there might be freedom from, and I mean, I know her song's about slavery. We're all in suffrage of mental slavery.
Absolutely.
And this idea of freedom and breaking free of the chains. I wish I could do all the things I can do. It's like that. The worst thing with this man is he says he can't when he can.
That's right.
I want to do the things I can do. It's like, of course I want to do the things I can do.
Absolutely.
What stops me? I'm constantly thinking I can do it and then not doing it. And it just meant the world to me. So
I loved on that same track, you know, that line from the Bob Marley Redemption song, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds.
Exactly.
It's that sort of thing. I think
it's absolutely that thing.
It's not just about slavery. It's about mental slavery as well.
Yeah. We're all on this path, but we can move from it.
Absolutely. Would you say you're a spiritual person?
No, but yeah, but no.
No, but yeah, but no.
I talk about it a lot, but only because I think my relationship with spirituality, it comes from my parents and their understanding of prejudice and the fascism and all that. I just kind of want to know why everyone else is fighting.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not. If I had to sum up what I believe in, I'll say I'm ready to believe in anything. You could tell me the world's flat. You can tell me there's a God. You could tell me that she's wonderful. You could tell me this, that and the other. I'm ready to believe in it all. But I've got no faith. I can't actually say I'm faithful. I can't say
100%
I'm
agree
with
with
that.
you. Yeah.
So I don't know if that counts as a spirituality. I think it's more of a philosophy. But I did read all the books. Just like I say, I wanted to know, why is everyone arguing all the time?
But often you come to the conclusion when you do that anyway, that often the reason why they're arguing is because they've misinterpreted or interpreted the holy books in their own way.
Absolutely.
And so it's used as a perfect justification to kill people, for war, for homophobia, for racism, for slavery. It's just used as an excuse. And because of that, that's why religion has been on the decline, I believe. I think faith is on the up. I think people's faith, people's spirituality is on the up. But I think organised religion is declining because of that point. People just can't reconcile in their heads, like, why does it say that, but then it says that?
Well, you kind of said it there with organised, haven't you?
Yeah.
There's been a few prophets, if that's what you want to call them, saying nice things and how we could all be nicer to each other. And then an organisation comes up and says, I think we can all make a living out of telling them what you said, but we'll just add our own spin on it.
Absolutely.
And it's like, you can't organise nice words.
So,
just nice.
Segueing, changing the subject slightly, because I've just had a thought. You told me that this song was played at your daughter's birth as well.
Yeah.
So tell me more about that.
So when Kaz and me were going to have our first child, geeky me took like a stack of CDs into the hospital just to make sure I could set the ambience.
Yeah,
I was DJing by then and I was like,
gotta set the mood, Caroline.
Gotta have the mood right. So yeah, really long labour, bless her. Really difficult situation in the hospital as well, constantly changing staff. It's not comfortable, it's not home. But when actually everything came to a head, I forgot all about the CDs, obviously, and just left one playing. But literally at that moment when Layla was born, I Wish I Knew came on, just on a compilation, and I was like, oh my God, I twigged. Not straight away, because I had my hands full, do you know what I mean? But then I twigged, she's literally been born to that message.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah.
Any kind of reincarnation is a thing.
Yes.
Or even if mental slavery is a thing, first words she's kind of heard is, you could be free. You could do the things you want to do.
Absolutely.
And I just loved that. I don't think she's ever heard it since.
And it's funny you should say that as well, because when you were telling me that story, I was reminded of when my eldest daughter Naomi was born, and my ex-husband Matt did exactly the same thing. He'd bought this stack of CDs, and most of which was Stevie Wonder, and because I loved Stevie Wonder, and I still love Stevie Wonder.
I even had Mickey Finn in there, I'm afraid. Just
God to me. Anyway. when she came out, the track that was playing was She's a Girl That Can't Be Beat, born and raised on ghetto streets. She's a pretty little beauty, a little girl with ebony eyes. And I was like, yes, that's the one. That is the one. So just comment, put something in the comments, you know, if you have children and a particular song was playing and it was just the right song, let us know. That's
a great idea for a whole other series of podcasts.
A whole other series.
What song was your child born to?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. There you go. You can have that idea for free, Jim. if you want. Song number 9 then. You have chosen Massive Attack, Blue Lines. You could have picked any Massive Attack song and I would have been, yes.
Yeah.
But why this particular one?
I mean, this was, again, a difficult one from any song on the album, because that album was kind of post-rave, rave's becoming institutionalised, mainstream, commercialised. The love, for me, had mainly gone. This is what I mean about getting bored of gigs.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was bored of the scene, it was that the scene had changed.
Yeah.
And we're all starting to get into more laid-back music. I'm listening to a lot of instrumental hip-hop. I'm listening to what started to become trip-hop, and I'm developing my scratching and turntablism. And then Massive Attack came out with that, and it's got like UK, so more relatable for me straight away than US hip hop. Sound system background. You can hear that there's a sound system going on there. It's got sound system culture to it with the toasting and stuff. But then with Blue Line specifically, it starts with that beautiful loop done by a DJ, and then that scratch, which is just so right and so mellow. And I was just like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
And I've been listening to all this sort of, I won't call it aggressive, but, you know, hip hop and scratching, and it was always staccato and in your face.
Yeah, technical.
And then Massive Attack come out with this laid back little feel, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to be doing.
Yeah,
something musical, something that fits with the band, something that flows so gently. And it really made me think, scratching is something I want to do, and it doesn't have to mean all the time.
Because around that same time there was like DJ Shadow as well, wasn't there? And he was like, to me, he opened my eyes to the possibilities. Like, wow, like, is that possible? Because he wasn't just doing scratching for the sake of it and to quick tunes. He used to have, like, you know, there was a section where it was like it would be really slow and really contemplative and absolutely beautiful as the Massive Attack tracks were. Sometimes it's the level of space, sometimes it's the simplicity of it. Like, we don't need to go down this ridiculously complex road.
Yeah, I mean, this is why in my bio I say I don't want to battle you, because the turntablist scene, I don't know if you know, with the history of hip hop, when the rappers started to get really focused on by the record labels, we've got front people, let's put them up front. The DJs who kind of invented the hip hop culture, started the hip hop music side of the culture, were put to the back or given DAT tapes. So a lot of them moved into battling, and the turntablism scene with the DMC competitions and all of that ended up being just a show to an extent of who had the best technical skills and who could do them fastest.
Yeah.
And I was always amazed. I watched them all.
Oh gosh, like,
they
are impressive.
But
absolutely.
They weren't a 10-minute set. Was this skill, that skill, that skill, and they didn't flow musically.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to pick out, like, how do we make it more musical? And there's some great DJs out there now, especially since DMC started to allow a bit more digital stuff, so they can organise their own tracks and not have to change record and all that. Not cheating, so I don't battle. I've just realised I'm looking at the wrong camera.
Well, I mean, there's two, so you're all right.
But again, Massive Attack used those techniques, but just made it so musical.
Yeah.
You know.
They certainly did. Right, so this brings us to song 10.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to say about song 10 for the audience and for the purposes of this, that Jim couldn't quite decide what his song 10 was going to be. So I'm going to let him explain then what he decided he was going to do.
So I've not even mentioned Motown, soul, funk. I've mentioned dub, but there's no dub track in here. There's no cumbia, there's no Latin music. There's hardly any reggae. You know, I should have given props to Bob Marley and all the hip-hop stuff that filled my life. The rest of house, the rest of rave, all of that. So I just thought, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a handful of other songs on bits of paper in a hat.
Love it.
Okay. Do you want me to read out the possible songs?
I think you ought to read the list first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we had De La Soul's I Know. Know It All mix. I am a DJ, so without knowing the mix,
tell you the mixes.
If I know them. The Far Side, She Keeps On Passing Me By.
Yeah.
Marlena Shaw's California Soul. Bob Marley's Small Axe. Got to get in there if you got a small axe. I'm a big tree.
Yeah.
No, if you're a big tree, I'm a small axe. I got that wrong way around, didn't I?
You did.
Been talking too long.
All good.
Too long. Erykah Badu, On and On. She should be in there.
Yeah.
Tribes, Electric Relaxation, such a sexy song.
Yeah.
I've just realised this one's not even a song. DJ Cold Cut Journeys by DJ is a whole hour-long DJ mix.
So listen
so
to the
I'm
whole
totally
album.
cheating. Dr. Octagon featuring Q-Berts, I'm Destructive.
Yeah.
Finley Quay, Love Gets Sweeter for Caroline. That was our wedding song. We walked down the aisle to that one.
Yeah.
Beautiful tune. Commons, Come Close to Me. Irma Franklin's Take a Little Piece of My Heart.
Yes.
For anyone thinking I'm living in the past, Salt, Smile and Go. I love Salt stuff. That Smile and Go tune, it might be short, but boom, it hits. So you just mentioned Stevie Wonder, and I would have gone for Living for the City.
Yeah.
Está
Got
bien,
that.
chévere.
Absolutely.
Clean Up Woman, Betty Wright. It's a tune in its own right, but it's been such an underpinning thing for all the hip hop you can dance to.
100%.
Amy Winehouse, Rest in Peace with Me and Mr. Jones.
Yeah.
Bluefoot Project, which is the band Rachel Hoover and I are in.
Yeah.
And a song we can't agree on the name for. I call it Stepping Stones. Rach calls it
Billy and Amy.
Yeah, and I think someone else calls it. You call it Relentless.
Relentless. Yeah.
But funnily enough, that is actually also repping Amy Winehouse and the whole me and Mr. Jones thing. King Tubby and King Tubby Dub is one of the big dub tunes in my life.
Yeah.
Mirror in the Bathroom, The Beat, Nightmares on Wax, All Praise George, Leeds Man, and Hamlet and Isaac. Sorry, everyone else. Night's Interlude was the one for me off that album. Smoker's Delight. Mexican Institute of Sound and a song called Mexico, just because it makes me go like that for the whole length of it. Mexico.
Got that.
Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man.
Yes.
Another one of my mum's, Grace Slick, White Rabbits.
Perfect.
Might seem out of place with the rest, but boom. And Billie Holiday's God Bless the Child. So all those went into a hat.
I feel like I need to do like a drum roll.
Okay. We have already picked it out, so we know what it is.
Right, so
But drum
ready?
roll, yeah.
And the winner is...
California Soul, Marlena Shaw.
Absolutely. I actually have the double album anthology, Marlena Shaw.
So jealous.
It is amazing.
So
it really
jealous.
is. I'll let you borrow it. But you got
What,
next.
really? It won't come back in good state.
No.
It'll be scratched.
Alright, you can't borrow it.
But it could have been any of those songs. I couldn't decide. 10 songs. You asked me how long it took to decide. I couldn't.
Yeah.
Is the short answer.
Yeah.
49 years of life, and music's too good to pin it down to 10.
It really is. So, that concludes Jim's 10 song choices. So now what tends to happen is I ask 3 questions that I ask everybody.
Okay.
All right, everybody answers very, very differently.
This is where it's going to get hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
now?
absolutely.
Even harder, I mean.
It certainly is. Right, so question number 1.
Mm-hmm.
What is next for you in life?
Oh, well, that's easy. We're releasing new music, and I would like to be rich, not famous, and do it all from the comfort of my sofa, please.
Gonna happen.
It's not asking too much, is it?
Yeah. It's part of a 5-year plan, isn't it?
Yeah.
Billionaires in 5 years just by sitting on your sofa.
Well, releasing music.
Oh, God,
and, you know, naturally it's so good it goes viral.
Yeah.
So I can just sit there and finish The Last of Us on Sky.
Amazing.
Perfect.
That's great. Question 2. If you could go back in time and give yourself any advice, what would it be?
I mean, there's so many things you could say to your younger self, isn't there? But I think for me, I'd just have to look myself in the eye and say, look, you're doing all right, really. Carry on.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
You can become very, very insular when you're young, can't you? And you can be very inside yourself and think everything is just conspiring against you. That is a great piece of advice. Yeah. Everything's all right.
Doing all right.
You're doing all right.
Carry on.
It's all right.
You
Carry
do
on.
you.
Absolutely.
That's what you say these days, isn't
you
it?
do
you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then your final question. which one of your songs will you pass? And I know you two girls are going to pull faces at this, but I can just imagine their faces looking at me as I say this. But anyway, which one of your songs would you pass on to your grandchildren? Sorry, Layla. Sorry, Tilly. And why?
I mean, it's going to have to be I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free.
Brilliant.
Because it is just... It underpins any philosophies... Well, it tied into and now underpins any philosophies I've had for life. And if there's any lesson I could give to anyone, it's wrapped up in that song.
Brilliant. Check out the song. It is an absolute stonker. It's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you
so much for
cool.
this. It's been brilliant, and we're here in actual DJ school as well. Yeah. So yeah, thank you. It's been brilliant.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for asking. And check out the Spotify playlist because they're all cracking tunes.
Yeah. All right.